Good communication is a key part of a successful relationship, but it also is difficult to achieve. The new book, No One Understands You and What to Do About It, breaks down the psychology behind why people have trouble communicating. It suggests ways to bridge the gap. Author Heidi Grant Halverson is a social psychologist and associate director of the Motivation Science Center at Columbia Business School. Good morning.
Good morning.
So this is interesting. You write, the uncomfortable truth is that most of us don't come across the way we intend. How so?
Well, it has everything to do with the fact that being understood well by another person is actually a lot harder than we think. It's very easy to forget that other people don't have access to your thoughts and feelings and intentions. They're really left having to guess based on the things you say, the things you do, which can be open to many interpretations. Even our faces are actually much less expressive than we realize.
You say you should have your listening face or your resting face is really key.
Yeah, you really need to be paying attention to what you're doing with your face, because often a good friend of mine who I talk about in the book, he was trying to have an active listening face for his team when people were, kind of giving insights. And it turned out after about 6 weeks of this that someone finally got up the courage to say, are you really angry right now? And he said, well, no, this is my active listening face. And it turned out that his active listening face was just sort of cold and stern looking. And one of the things that I talk about a lot in the book is that we often don't realize how important it is to signal warmth, both in our faces, in our body language, and in the words we use with one another. That's a really key part of coming across the way you intend to.
How difficult is it to change a first impression?
Oh, it's really hard. I mean, I would love to be the person who could come on and say, all that stuff they say about first impressions, don't worry about it. Unfortunately, it's even harder than most of us think, and it has everything to do with the way our brains are wired. There's something called the primacy effect that psychologists study, which is basically the first things I learn about you really stick and sort of loom large in my impression of you. And then what happens is everything I learn about you after that gets interpreted based on what I already think of you. And so if I've come to the conclusion that you're kind of a jerk or that you're really not very smart, when you do things later on, even if they're nice or intelligent, I'll see them through that lens of what I already believe.
It just validates what you already think about somebody.
Exactly, and it's unconscious.
But is there always a gap, Heidi, between how we see ourselves and how others see us? Because I always think most people are pretty easy to see, but you say no, not true.
There is almost always a gap.
A big gap, you said.
A really big gap. In fact, if you look at studies, for example, of college roommates and how long they live together, and if you look at, say, what the roommate thinks of the other and what that person thinks of themselves, those two things don't start to really mesh up until about 9 months of living together. And even with married couples, it tends to be about, the correlation is like 0.5. So yes, what I think of myself is something like what my husband thinks of me, but there's still a big gap. And it's really big, actually, for people who tend to be a little bit more restrained. The more you hold back, the less you are comfortable talking and sharing your feelings, the harder it is for other people to read you. So if you're kind of stoic, people are going to guess wrong about you a lot.
Yeah, you say people who send clear signals are ultimately happier.
They are.
And more satisfied.
So it is.
In all areas of their life.
You have a question?
She said, Charlie goes. You have a question?
I want to hear what Charlie has to say.
So how do we change this? I mean, go ahead.
No, I'm listening. This is my listening face.
Smile slightly more.
I'm scared. She said, smile slightly more.
Smile slightly more when you're listening.
Okay, Heidi. So how do we change this for people who need this? How do they change it?
Well, I think
warmth is very important.
Warmth is really, really important. It's one of the most important things that we don't make an effort to send. Usually when we're meeting people, and especially at work, we're so focused on trying to look competent that we forget to signal, "Hey, I'm your friend." And you can do
what
it
if I'm not your friend?
You want to signal it anyway.
Your friend.
You really. It's easier if you just kind of act like you are.
I think it's great when you can just look at someone and know exactly what they're thinking and communicate with them. Don't you think?
I do.
Isn't that?
Yeah.
Could be scary.
Yeah, it can be scary. We kind of do that telepathically right here.
When
at the
you get
table.
to know each other, you pick up on the signals.
Yeah.
Some very clear signals you can send are things like keeping eye contact when people are talking to you, that's really important. Nodding at the end of sentences, like you guys do it, right? To indicate understanding and affirmation. Smiling, especially when people smile at you, that's super, super important. Little body language things, asking people
we have
how
to
they are.
go.
like
What
No,
you're
but
saying,
you've
what
got
you're saying is
Heidi.
very interesting, but we have to go.
But you have really good advice. Really good advice. Well
you.
done, Heidi. And it didn't
Thank
take
you.
us 9 months
No, that's
to
right.
get each other. It didn't
Yeah.
take 9 months. Thank you. Heidi Grant Halverson is her name. The book is called No One Understands You and What to Do About It. It's on sale right now.